Hello and welcome back to Shy Girl Speaks. I am your host, Jacqueline Peraza, and I will be the certified yapper in your ear for the next hour or so. Maybe less until I get the hang of this, but welcome back. This is officially episode 2 of the Shy Girl Speaks podcast. Sorry, I was just making sure that I said that right. This is officially episode 2 of the Shy Girl Speaks podcast, and by the time you're watching this, the first episode obviously will have already been out, and hopefully there are more than 2 viewers and listeners on that one. So if you are a returning viewer or listener, thank you. Thank you so much. I am really excited about this podcast, and I am so ready to just kind of like hone in and step into this next era of my life, which is podcasting. And I think I'm finally at that point where I'm really excited to podcast and share my stories. And also in this episode, I get to share some of your guys' stories, which we will get to in a little bit. And obviously you guys have read the title of this episode. I will be reacting and reading some of your guys' worst date stories, whether they were first dates, blind dates, just overall really bad, crappy dates. I can't wait to share them with you guys because I was sitting down reading some of these responses and my goodness, where do some of these people get the audacity from? I don't know. They must be selling it at some sort of store I do not know about. As I'm recording this episode, I have not yet announced Shy Girl Speaks on my Instagram or anything like that. Only few select people in my life know. I ultimately hope, like I said in the last episode, that this feels somewhat like a FaceTime call if you're watching video, or a phone call if you're just listening to the audio. I want to catch you guys up on my life, share some of the things that have been happening behind the scenes, and also things that I'm really looking forward to, like in this episode, sharing and connecting with you guys through your guys' submissions, which is crazy. And also on next week's episode, I'm also going to be giving you guys a glimpse of some of the things that I've gotten to do as a content creator or quote unquote influencer in the last 5 years, because one of those things that I got to do was go to New York, and a lot of people have always asked me how I got to that point, what it was like, and I have filmed a video about this before. It just never made it to the light of day, so I figured having it in a more story time format that is more suited for podcasts would be best for this sort of like story recounting. So I'm really excited to do that. And also kind of touch base on my London travels. I did travel to London for the very first time. I traveled out of the country apart from Mexico this summer. And I also want to share what that was like, because even though it really wasn't for, let's say, like an influencer event, it was for content creation as part of my business. But that is next week. This week, we are reacting to your guys' worst date stories. I said this earlier, I do not know where the men are finding the audacity. And I say men confidently because as I read these and as you guys kind of get an idea of what we're working with, no woman is doing the things that these men are doing. To be completely honest, before I was in a relationship, I did not go on many first dates. I feel that maybe in total, I gave 2 men the chance. I went on a first date one time that was my very first date, was not the most pleasant experience. And I always bring this up. I even submitted this story onto a podcast that I listened to, and it was so bad that it made the cut. So now that it's on my platform, I don't want to give away too many details yet. I feel like since I'm starting, I don't want to catch a lot of heat. But my very first date, I finally gave in to my mom telling me that I should give this one kid, I was in high school, this one kid a chance. And after months and months of my mom trying to convince me, I finally said, okay, fine, I will give in. So I went on a sushi date. And for those of you guys who don't know, sushi is my favorite food. So I figured, comfort food, something new, it's like a little blanket. The sushi, the little salmon nigiri was going to wrap me up like a little blanket in these moments of uncertainty. And I was just really, really scared. So we show up. I also picked a restaurant that really wasn't that crowded with people that I knew from school. There were a couple restaurants in this area that a lot of high schoolers at that time would frequent. And I just knew that I didn't want to be seen on my first date. And it wasn't anything to do with the guy. It was more so me being nervous of that awkward like interaction. And if things didn't go well, I didn't want other people at school knowing. So I went on this date. We show up to the restaurant. We sit in a booth. And I'm not really sure why it happened, but I would use my napkin, and obviously it's a napkin. I just kind of don't give it much thought when I'm using it. So I would use it, kind of crumble it, and then I would put it to the side. And right off the bat, he just would not stop talking about himself. I respect a man who has confidence in himself, but this was borderline bragging about himself. And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, this is my first date. Maybe this is how things are supposed to go. Maybe the guy is supposed to share a lot, but then maybe when he's done talking, you're supposed to also equally overshare. And the part where I started oversharing never came because this man never stopped talking about himself, his goals, what he was going to do, who he was going to be, and honestly, slay. Good for you. I think this man has probably accomplished some of them. I'm not too sure. I don't really follow along with him anymore. But if he did, great, because he manifested that shit. He was on it. There was a point where I kind of made peace with the fact that he was going to do the majority of the talking. So that way, when I spoke, my voice wasn't shaking. Again, it wasn't even because I was really into this man. It was just more of the fact that I was on a date with a man. And again, as a former shy girl, doing something like this was already out of my comfort zone. I was already so scared. I was nervous. So after about 40 minutes of this man speaking, he turns around and he looks at my napkin and he's absolutely disgusted. It wasn't dirty. It was just crumbled up. He began to tell me that because I didn't really know how to use a napkin and that I left it crumbled up and not folded up, that he was starting to have doubts about whether or not he would be able to introduce me to his family. Now, family was a bit strange. Family was a bit crazy, considering the fact that we were 16 years old. We were on our very first date, and I didn't, this sounds so mean, but I didn't really want to even meet up with him, let alone meet up with his entire family. And again, I have always been a girl that respects herself, that has manners, that carries herself with composure. Why would the way I use a napkin change any of that? And that's when I mentally clocked out. I told myself, I am not going to be texting this guy after he drops me off. So we went about our business. We finished dinner, and after dinner, he was asking me if I wanted to maybe go get a sweet treat with him. And one, I'm not really too keen on sweet treats. I'm more of a savory girl. But had the date gone well, I feel that I would have accepted that offer. But since it didn't, and since I was ridiculed for using a napkin the way a napkin is supposed to be used, I ultimately decided to tell him, hey, I'm so sorry. I really can't. My mom is expecting me back at the house. We have something to go to, but thank you so much. And that was that. That was my very first date, and I was 17 years old. I don't think I went on another first date until I was 20 or 21. And then after that, I didn't go on another date until I was 23, and that was with my boyfriend. I would always get really nervous to meet up with people. And at the same time, I've just always been okay with being by myself before I had my boyfriend. But I've always been pretty independent. And so little things like that, maybe to somebody else, it would have been okay, something that you call out later, or you're able to look past in order to form a relationship with somebody. But since I just knew what I wanted from a very young age, I wasn't willing to settle for somebody who was making a big deal about my napkin. Again, that was also the summarized version of it, because I don't want to give too many details or else it would give away too much, and I'm not there yet. That may not sound like a crazy story, but to me it was, and it really stuck with me and impacted me for the next 4 to 5 years. And yeah. Okay, now it's time for your guys' stories, which I am really excited about. I've kind of skimmed some of these. Some of them are longer than others, so I will do a mixture of everything. Something that I noticed was the overall consensus of a lot of these is that boys are really stingy with their money, especially with women. And I feel that even if they're just trying to get some play, they could at least put some money behind it, and then we can decide whether yes or no. But Genuinely, what is with these men thinking that they can do the absolute bare minimum and then they expect the women to fall in love with them, if not do something else with them? It doesn't make sense. The first one is short and sweet. And she really didn't have to give too many details because I felt that pain. And she said, my ex-boyfriend took me to Hooters with his entire family on our first date. Hooters is crazy work. Hooters is, I don't even know. I was going to say Hooters had to be a test of some sorts, but who was the test for? For the family or for you or for him? Why would you put yourself in a position to also, did you know that where he was going to take you? Were you prepared for the first date? Did you expect it to just be you and him? Maybe going out to a nice steakhouse? Were you prepared? Did you know that you were going with his family to Hooters? I really wish you would have provided more details because Hooters is crazy work. Hooters is bomb. Hooters is good. I've been to Hooters many times in my life, but you are just subjecting yourself to be in a very uncomfortable position as a man if you are taking your first date to Hooters. As a woman, I support the girls who work at Hooters. Please continue doing you. But for a first date, that seems a little bit off. But maybe prices were cheap. Maybe but even then, it was with his entire family. Go to McDonald's, have a picnic, pick up a pizza from Little Caesars, and then go to the park with your family. If that's what you want to do as a first date, do not take the girl to Hooters with your family. And that, I'm sorry for laughing. I'm sorry for laughing at a lot of these because I'm not laughing at you guys. I'm laughing at them. I'm laughing at the stupidity. I'm laughing at the audacity that some of these men have because you guys deserve better. And I hope that whoever wrote these in, you guys are not dating or with any of these men because you guys are queens and you guys deserve better. All I have to say to that is Hooters is crazy work. This one really upset me. She said, this was back in early 2020 before the pandemic hit. I was seeing this guy who was not the nicest and we spent the whole time fighting. He took me to a sketch neighborhood to pick something up from a cousin and the cousin acted like I didn't exist. He almost left me at Walmart and was pushing for sex even though I was a virgin. LOL. Girl, that's not LOL. That ain't nothing to laugh about. That's jail time for that man for being a jerk, expecting play, and then taking you to and putting you in harm's way. And then taking you to meet family on the first date. I don't think it was a first date because I know who wrote this in. But still, that boils my blood like you wouldn't believe. Girls, there is a lesson here. If you are ever put into an uncomfortable situation by a man that you trust or that you have feelings for, you need to seriously sit down and evaluate whether or not you want to continue forming and building a relationship with this man. I do believe that once you start feeling uncomfortable and they start pressuring you into doing things that you don't want to do, they will never change. It'll always escalate to something more and more and more. This is not your guys' fault. If you've been in the situation, I feel many women have, it is not our fault. I think that to a certain extent, we try to prove ourselves to them so that they can see, oh, well, she likes me enough to do this and that. She likes me enough to, kind of put aside her beliefs and her actual wants and needs to tend to me. When they are pushing you to do things like have sex with them or just put you in harm's way in any shape or form, it's better to say goodbye to them and move on to the next because there are men out there who will respect you, respect your wishes, and respect whatever it is that you want to do, the pace that you want to go at. Treating you like crap and then expecting X, Y, and Z from you is just toxic, masculine behavior that I just can't stand behind. Again, ladies, if this sounds familiar to you or you feel that you're experiencing this now, leave that man. There are way better men out there. Point blank, period. Next story, sorry to get all big sisterly on you guys, but I want the best for my girls. I need a name for the girls and the guys who listen to this podcast. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. Anywho, let's move on. I decided to be bold and ask a guy out for coffee. After we set a time and place, the day finally came and I called him to confirm 20 minutes before the date with this boy. No answer. 10 minutes asking if he is already there. No answer. I never heard back from him and I treated myself with some food and stayed home. Honestly, good for you for staying home and treating yourself to food. I'm sure that it was hurtful, especially if you spent a lot of time talking to him. I've never really understood people who just ghost. I feel that that is a lack of maturity. Maybe when you were young, I don't know, maybe you were young, maybe you are young, but as an adult, there is no reason why you should be ghosting anybody in any sort of setting, as a friend, as as a romantic partner, as a professional, a business professional, even less. But ghosting has always been something that is weird to me. I think like ghosting, if you're in a really toxic relationship and you need to just completely go ghost, yes. But if you've already previously set up a plan with somebody, or you've agreed to, meet up or talk at a later time, why not just say, hey, I can't make it. Hey, this, and that. At least you give them the respect of understanding why you cannot meet. If you don't feel, let's say, the spark is there between you guys, you can just lie and say, hey, I feel like I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm focusing my time on this, and that. But to go complete ghost on somebody is wrong and it's immature. And I hope he got a flat tire that day. Another short but sweet one. My first date was Tractor Supply and Chick-fil-A. I mean, that's nice. Did he maybe think that you would be into it? Did he have chores to run? Again, this is one of those that I have so many questions about, and I would love to hear more next time you guys submit these stories. Did you have fun? Obviously, maybe it wasn't that fun because I said worst date stories, but I would love to know like what was going through your mind, if you thought maybe he was taking you to Tractor Supply first because, you had to get some things before they closed. And then after you were expecting, a movie, you're expecting to go on a walk, maybe go grab dinner at a Chili's at least. But tell me more. I feel like Chick-fil-A is always going to be a go-to for me. Good morning. Yeah, my cat's been here the entire time. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, you totally just saw him peek in. But I feel like Chick-fil-A is always going to be it for me. The key to not being disappointed on a first date is kind of knowing what to expect. Different girls expect different things, and there are girls that don't necessarily put a price point on what a good date is. Maybe Tractor Supply and Chick-fil-A would have been perfect if you had previously mentioned that, I don't know, your favorite store is Tractor Supply and your favorite restaurant or your favorite place to eat is Chick-fil-A. But if this was just out of the blue, again, like I said to the one previously, jail. No parole, maximum sentence, 70 years minimum for Tractor Supply. Actually, no. I'm saving that sentence for another one that I got earlier. That was my first submission. This one is actually kind of crazy. Sorry. You guys just get me all riled up. Because I grew up in Arizona and I now live here in South Texas, I feel that a lot of these men are just, subjected to the region. But who knows? Maybe they're all like this everywhere. Okay, this one, we're going to call this story the Corvette cutie, because this was cutie as in like, those cuties, the mandarins or the tangerines, the little tiny orange fruit. This is what I thought of when I read this, and you guys will see why. So submission reads, once went on a guy with a guy who had a Corvette. He was cute in his pictures and looked tall. Well, actually, he told me he was tall. When he picked me up, he was so short and I was catfished. Mind you, I am 5'5". He must have been 5 foot flat. Not that size matters, because it doesn't. But when I tell you this man said we were going for dinner and a movie, he took me to a hotel and said we would DoorDash and he would connect the phone to the TV. Keep in mind, she's writing this and she's sending all of the crying emojis, which is so funny. I literally asked him to turn his little short ass around and take me home. Long story short, you can't be short and have big man energy. I think you can. I'm going to disagree with you on that one. I think you can, but you have to actually act like a man. This man already wronged. He wronged you in so many ways. Again, like you said, it doesn't matter. Size does not matter. If you want a short king, if you want a tall king, like by all means, go for them. It's all about the way he treats you. But he lied. He lied about his height because he could have also maybe bent the truth. Maybe he could have said like, yeah, like I'm average, which I think like a men's average height is 5'8", right? 5'7". But 5 foot, if you're a 5'5", I understand if you're not expecting that, that could be a little bit of a problem. 5 foot, catfish, and then took you to a hotel to try to get some action? No. This one also deserves jail with, let's say, max sentence, 30 years in prison with no parole, with no retrial, whatever you want to call it. Nothing in this world icks me out more than when a man thinks that a woman is just going to give herself up because he said so. There was no effort. DoorDash on a first date in a hotel room. He probably thought he was genius too because he said, yeah, you know what? I brought my HDMI cable so I can hook it up to the TV so we could watch whatever she wants. Little miss over here can watch her Pretty Little Liars or her Summer I Turned Pretty or her Gossip Girl. I also don't know if you know this guy, but if you continue speaking it to him after, because me personally, I don't think I would have, but he probably also rented that Corvette or he borrowed it from his cousin in Las Milpas or like his friend knew a guy, wasn't his. He lied about everything else. He let you down in more ways than one. The Corvette wasn't his. Or I got repoed. Okay, next one. I love how she started it with bro. Like, bro, I'm sad. Whenever somebody comes up to me and starts to send a story with bro, get a load of this, or bro, or bruh, dude. Dude is the one that I use, and dude, you are not going to believe what happened. And oftentimes, like, you wouldn't be able to guess what happens when somebody starts it with dude. So, bro, I feel is along those lines, so this is going to be good. Bro. There was a first date I went on where the guy wanted me to act as if we had been dating for 5 years and act out how I'd break up with him in that scenario. And when I said, that's weird, I don't want to do that, he was already in character and wouldn't break character. A little improv, a little foreplay, a little, what's that word called? Method acting, a little method acting. Also, on that same date, he asked how tall was the tallest guy I'd been with in the past and told me I had a nice landing pad for a forehead. I forgot I read that. Sorry. He told me I had a nice landing pad for a forehead kiss. Girl, me too. Me too. Big foreheads unite. Honestly, sorry. If you're self-conscious about that, he was lying. But honestly, if you do have one, and you're worried about it, my mom always told me that all the models always had big foreheads, and whether she's true or not, I always believed it. So all the models have big foreheads, girlfriend. Don't worry about it. I have a big forehead. It's because we have a lot of brain, we have a lot of smarts, we have a lot of intelligence that these men obviously don't have. His forehead was probably like 3 centimeters. There was definitely more to that story, but needless to say, the freak never got a second date. The freak is pretty accurate. The freak is something I would have used to also describe that man. I wonder how many girls he's also asked to do that, or why he felt comfortable enough with you to maybe ask for that favor of. At first, I kind of thought maybe that is like him manifesting, the first part of that sentence when you said like he wanted to act out like if we had already been dating. But to a point that could have also been seen as love bombing and like maybe like jumping into it right away. But the fact that he wanted you to break up with him, there is a word for that. I think like that's sadistic, masochist. I don't know. I do believe that there's a word for it. And I'm glad that you never let that man get a second date. Once you tell your girls about that story, all of your girls are also like, dude, what are you doing? Like, block him. Girl, you dodged a bullet. There were a good amount of you girls who had a bunch of bums that basically made you pay for your dinner or your lunch or your part in the date. I am so sorry, but if you are being invited on a date, or even if you are a girl and you make the first move and you suggest a date, you shouldn't have to pay for it. Bring back men paying on the first dates and not bitching about it, because that's something I've seen online. The discourse over a lot of these men sorry, I'm getting heated, but I have seen Reddit threads. I have seen things on X, formerly known as Twitter. I've seen things on Threads. I've seen on Instagram, on TikTok. A lot of these men are so angry about the fact that they have to pay for the women's part on the first date. Now, there are some girls that say, you know what, if I'm not vibing with him, then I'm going to offer to pay. I think that's fine. But as a man, you should already go in with the mentality that you are going to pay for the woman. That is just something that you do. It's respect. You're being nice about it. There's no need to humiliate somebody. If you're trying to bag a baddie and you want her to pay her own shit, door's right there, buddy. No. I matched with this guy on Tinder, and the first time meeting him, he basically just drove us around, got Chick-fil-A, and complained that it was too hot outside to go to a park when I suggested it. Loser. 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 You could have also offered to get off at Chick-fil-A. There would have been a little bit more effort there. You could have also just taken the Chick-fil-A and sat under the shade on a bench. And if you're really into this girl and maybe she gives you the chance and decides to go on a second, third, fourth, fifth date with you, she'll bring up the first date and you guys will be able to kind of giggle about it. Remember how hot it was when we were at that park? Yeah, but it was so sweet because, you know, we got to talk and blah, blah, blah. But if you're complaining on the first date, don't complain on a first date. Be grateful. Act like you just came into the world, that there's nothing wrong with the world. Next story. He made me pay. And it was our first time going on a date. I had just met him. And on top of that, he didn't want to take a photo with me either. He kept covering his face, saying he didn't like the way he looked. Yeah, sure. Overall, such a waste of time. Yeah, that is a waste of time. He was also probably in another relationship. He was also just big loser. Like I said with the other one. Loser, 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 loser. I've been with Max for 2 years, almost 3 years. And I feel like I have maybe a total of 12 selfies with him because it takes a lot out of me to ask for anybody to take a selfie with me. So the fact that you have the courage and the cojones to ask for a photo with this guy on the first date, I respect. You're a different breed. Teach me your ways. But then to be told no, and then if you keep insisting and the man is just covering his face, I'm not for the T app, but T app immediately. He has to be seeing somebody else or various people, and he's just trying to play the game. He's playing you, girlfriend. And like you said, that was a waste of time. So I'm glad that you got out of that. I hope you never really spoke to him again because he seems sketchy and he seems like a bad person. And his feet probably stink. The guy invited me to go to the movies and a dinner. And okay, actually she like bullet point listed. She said, I'm going to be clear and concise. Guy invited me to go to the movies and dinner. He made me pay for movies because he was broke. Clock it. Then he said my laugh was too loud. Then broke it off with me because he wasn't, quote unquote, sexually attracted to me. I'm trying really hard to think of something nice, but I can't. I will never understand why some men think it's okay to tell a woman that they're not sexually attracted to her, because that's just like the lowest blow. And high key, I think that those men's intelligence level are less than goldfish. You are beautiful and you're not broke. And the fact that you were able to pay for your dinner, your movie tickets, honestly, at that point, you should have been like, you know what? I can take care of you too. I can take care of our dinner. And then you should have broke it off with him. But that's a lesson for another time. If you ever run into that situation, you know exactly what to do and you tell him who sent you. This might be a shorter episode than most because I feel that I am kind of running out of submissions here. I have a couple more, but still. My goal for these episodes is to make them about an hour to an hour 30 minutes when I get the hang of it. But for right now, my goal is 45 minutes to an hour. So I guess we'll see how I'm doing with time there. But I do have 2 or 3 more submissions, and I do have my favorite one that I received because, again, I know who it's from. This is just funny because I can picture her telling me this story, and I really want you guys to listen in. Also, I love you to death. You know who you are. You know who wrote it. This is the most detailed submission that I got by far. And I love it because I'm able to put myself in your shoes And I am really excited to have the viewers put themselves in your shoes as well, because the details and everything is just pure comedy. But I'm going to save that for the last one. So you guys have to keep watching and listening. Sorry, I'm not trying to discriminate against you audio listeners. Since I always had to have a chaperone, I went on a date with my little sister. Oh, girl. Girl. Okay, I get it. Your chaperone was your little sister, and you went on a date with a guy, and your little sister had to be the chaperone. Got it. Okay. Since we were three people, he didn't have a lot of money. We were still in high school. We went to eat at McDonald's and ordered through the drive-thru 10 small cheeseburgers, and he gave me one, he ate the rest, and my little sister had none. That was my dinner date. Foul. Look, there's nothing wrong with McDonald's. And if you guys are in high school and he was balling on a budget, I get it. I understand. But getting not one or two or three cheeseburgers, but 10 cheeseburgers and only distributing one to go outside of your space is diabolical. It is, again, crazy work and honestly a little bit unhealthy. That's bad. But what's even worse is that he didn't give your little sister one. I don't know how old your little sister was. Maybe you were 16, she was 15. Maybe you were 17, she was 14. I don't know. Or maybe she was 3 years old and she really just wanted a Happy Meal. What a jerk. How broke can you be if you're going to buy 10 cheeseburgers to eat in one sitting? How broke do you have to be? Unless his mom was like, here's $10. And he said, I know what I'm going to do. And just like beelined it to McDonald's. We have officially made it to the very last submission of your guys' worst dates that you guys have ever been on. The ones that we heard today were bad. They were some bad ones. I feel that next time I do one of these, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot more responses next time I do these. And my mouth is going to be even further on the floor than it was. But I have to say, as of now, the ones that I can really think of that really, really like irritated me were the ones where the guy was taking you to a sketchy neighborhood and then expecting something out of you and being really mean to you. Worst date. The second one that I feel that is also pretty bad and probably one of the worst ones I heard so far was the one where the guy in the Corvette showed up and he was 5 foot flat and he took you to a hotel room like Pitbull because he thought he was going to get some play. He's going to put one in the O and two in the A. Too far. We officially made it to our last one. This one just kind of made me laugh again because I know who wrote it. It is just one of those, where do men find the audacity? There must be a store. They probably got it on sale somewhere too, because Sephora and Ulta doesn't sell the audacity. So I'm thinking that it must be at like Dick's Sporting Goods or even at Bass Pro Shop, because it ain't at the mall, I'll tell you that. So this date takes place in undergrad. It was my very first semester, and because I had just started going out a lot more, I began to meet new people. At a party, I met a guy. Let's call this guy Joe, for privacy reasons, lol. Joe and I exchanged Snap and Insta info, and we began to talk soon after that party. Side note, I don't know what age you guys are. I don't know who's listening to this, but if a man even if you're in high school, if a man only asks you for your Snapchat, don't even bother with him. A man who solely communicates on Snapchat after the age of 17 needs to grow up. We're not communicating through a platform where all the messages disappear. Like, why don't you want record of my beautiful spoken word poetry that I wrote down for you? Let's get back to the story. Joe and I had exchanged Snap and Insta info, and we began to talk soon after that party. After a few days of talking, he invited me out, and he took advantage of the fact that we would be both on campus at the same time and suggested we could go hit a quick workout at the rec and then get food after, which nightmare date. You know how Huda from Love Island was like, oh, my dream date, and he knew that? No, that is my nightmare date. And now all of you guys know that. Working out with somebody for the first time on a first date just screams problem. It screams embarrassment. Not for, if you've done it, there's no shade. For me personally, because I do not work out, that sounds like a nightmare because I'm already worried about how I'm going to be perceived. I want to show up to the date with my hair curled, with my makeup done, with a cute little outfit on. hiding every single part of my body. I do not want to be exposed in a sports bra or a tank top and leggings and hitting weights and sweating. No, 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 no. But she's brave. I'll give you that one. I love you for doing that, but that could never be me. This is where it all started to go wrong. Yeah, I could have told you that. I let him decide the exercises we would do during our workout. Throughout the session, he insisted I could carry heavier weight, insisted I could do more reps past failure, and insisted I had much more potential. All right, Coach Carter. Like, you were being trained. You weren't on a first date. Throughout the date, we made small talk where we discussed goals and whatnot. He then decided it would be a great idea to ask me what my fitness goals were. I don't know, get a dumpy, get some abs, look like a Pilates princess. How about that? I told him my only goal was health and maintenance. I told him I was happy with my weight and body and felt like I didn't need to lose any more weight. Mind you, I'm 5'3", 120 pounds, and have a pretty slim body. Slim, thick body. Joe then took the freedom to take his hand and measure my waist and said, I don't know, I think you could go thinner. I had no comment. I laughed and it said, yeah, sure, I guess. If I really wanted to, I could slim down. ... She put the ... Ugh, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. We finished our workout and decided to just grab Chick-fil-A. Again, Chick-fil-A mentioned. That's the third time that Chick-fil-A gets mentioned. Again, if you do Chick-fil-A, I feel like all of you girls have a traumatizing Chick-fil-A story now. And that's why I understand why maybe Chick-fil-A is not someplace that you frequent. So anyways, they go to Chick-fil-A. It was our turn to order. And he asks, so he says, order first, get whatever you want. So I begin to order the 8-piece chicken nugget meal. He cuts me off mid-sentence and says, oh, no, wait. I suggest you just get a salad. It's so much better for you. You know what else is better for you? Well, fist in your face, my guy. I looked right at Joe, and before I could say anything, he ordered the salad for me and then proceeded to order the deluxe chicken burger with fries. That was the last time I ever hung out with him, and I basically ghosted him after that mess of a date. Everything I said about ghosting people at the beginning of this episode, forget it. There are times that you can ghost people, and that is it. This is like not even the first time I hear a story like this from a friend where like a man just has, for whatever reason, decides to comment on a woman's body and then say, yeah, you should do X, Y, and Z, or you could do this, this, and that. I'm so sorry, but your opinion wasn't asked for. It was unwarranted. And if I really wanted your opinion, I would have asked, but I didn't. So anything you say, anything that comes out of your mouth is just going to be noise. It's just going to be what I use against you from now on. Commenting on somebody's weight, male or female, whether you're a girl commenting on somebody's weight, unprovoked, unannounced. If you're a man commenting on a woman's weight, unprovoked, unannounced. Why? It's 2025. But when I see pregnant women and somebody's like, oh my goodness, like you're going to gain so much weight, or after they have a child, I mean, they just went through one of the hardest things that a woman can go through, and that is childbirth. They ask, oh, you'll bounce back. You'll bounce back. Yeah, no, you're going to look better than when you were pregnant or before you were pregnant. There's no need to be like putting these things, like a woman's body is going to change. A woman's body also 120 pounds at 5'3" is like literally, you are so thin. A lot of people also fail to realize that the number on the scale doesn't determine whether or not you are healthy or unhealthy. Big thing that a lot of like pea-sized brain boys think that, oh, I want my girl to be 110 pounds. But she also has to be 5'10" and she also has to have like a lot of muscle on her arm, and she has to have a big fat dumpy on the back, and her racks must be... Shut up. You don't even know. Like, you barely even passed geometry. You barely even passed physics. You don't know the way that your body works. You don't know how other people's body works. There are times where somebody's smaller. Anyways, I don't even know why I'm going on this rant. It just really irks me when people, whoever it is, they just like love to throw weight and like goals, and like they measure health and, feeling good and confidence based on like what is the number on the scale. And that's just so beyond messed up to me. And that's something I can never get behind. And this man is a walking red flag. I'm going to have her comment his real name, so that everybody can just never talk to him. I'm kidding, you guys. I run into this issue a lot with my family and my boyfriend and some of my friends, where I love to be sarcastic, but my sarcasm kind of comes off like if I was actually being very serious. And I do have a dark sense of humor. So half of the things that I said here obviously are sarcasm, they're jokes, but there were probably some of you who thought I was being serious, like the one of me telling her to dox him. If she wants to, she can. I'm not going to fight that one, unfortunately. But stay away from men like that. If a guy ever makes a comment on your body that was unwanted, so you Uno reverse that comment and then you ditch. Now I'm going to probably get some like haters in the comment for that. Oh, you guys, actually, I got my very first hate comments on my TikTok not too long ago. And then I left a comment on somebody else's post one time, and then I also got hate comments there. And I've noticed a reoccurring theme, and this is kind of like along the lines of what we spoke about today. When a man is insecure, they will do anything in their power to use words to try to bring a woman down. Whenever they see a woman that is confident in herself, in her own body, they will do anything they can to try to take that away from them. And that is a reflection of them and how they feel about themselves. Without giving too much info away, because this really isn't my story to tell, but a girl I know posted a TikTok. It went viral, and it was picked up by a bunch of female hating men on TikTok. And it got clipped a bunch of times. It was taken out of context. And she, in return, started getting a ton of hate comments and death threats into her comment section and her messages. It even got as far as people trying to dox her. And so she posted a video as somebody who, we're mutuals, and I felt for her. I commented and, being completely honest, like some of these people are really mean. I mean, the comments were really unwarranted and really rude and really unnecessary and in a way life-threatening, because a lot of them were saying like, off yourself, yada, yada, yada. I commented saying that this is so wrong. Please stay strong. I'm just trying to be a support, because it's so easy to literally absorb all of that hate. And so I made it an effort to let her know, you know what? Sending you so much love and sending you hugs, because this isn't okay. And what they're saying is really mean, and it's not true. Woke up the next day. I had so many comments under my video saying like, you are just as bad as her. You are part of the problem. You are this, you are that. There was a bunch of flooding that happened in Texas around that time, where it was actually really, really sad. It was the July 4th floods, where it took a lot of lives, and they were just trying to rage bait me at that point. They were telling me that I was this, I was that. I was just basically a terrible person. And so I started responding with, I'm so glad you took the time out of your day to comment that, but here, if you really feel like you want to make a difference, and I would send like links, I would link places that they could donate stuff. And for a while, I really wish that it hadn't gone to me, but I do remember every time I'd open the app and I would see that somebody else had commented on a video, I wondered how big it would get. And to a certain extent, I was worried, because if my comment section looked like hers, I don't know how I would have reacted. She had a way stronger, she's a badass. And so she's able to probably look at that, feel a certain way, and move forward. But I was worried about how big it could have gotten. And people were starting to comment like, mean things on my posts, people that didn't know me. And I just had to kind of just take it with a grain of salt and realize that, like, these people don't know me. Same thing with these men that you guys are going on dates with. They don't know you. There's no need for you guys to be putting up with anything less than extraordinary. You guys should be with men that respect you. You guys should be with men who put in the effort to be in your presence, because you guys are all queens. And again, even if it's not for dates, like I said at the very end, if you are receiving mean comments or threats or, getting nasty comments being left on your TikToks or your Instagram, your photos, whatever, just know that they have the IQ of a goldfish. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there at the end, but I want you guys to know that you guys do not have to settle for less. And if they really want to make an effort to get to know you, they will show the effort, they will put in the effort, and they will respect you above anything else. So again, I'm so glad and so happy that some of you guys submitted your guys' worst stories here onto the pod, because I had a lot of fun reading them, and I hope that you guys have had a lot of fun listening to them and also reacting to them, because it's just fun. As girls, I think it's fun when we're able to collectively giggle about our shared experiences and just realize that we all go through the same things with different people, sometimes the same people. And it's just fun to kind of make light out of something that once felt like it was the end of the world. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Shy Girl Speaks. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel if you guys are watching on YouTube. If you guys are listening on Spotify or anywhere else where you listen to your podcast, make sure you subscribe or follow there. Follow me on Instagram, follow Shy Girl Speaks Pod on Instagram, and I will see you guys next week. Bye. Say bye to Chella. Say bye. Ah, he bit it.